Well, thank you so much for joining us today, everyone. Please, you've already given us one warm welcome, another warm welcome for Kimberly Bryant and Kai Morton. Hi, I just have to say, I'm going to have a fangirl moment. I know we're short on time, but I'm going to take 30 seconds just to say how incredible it is for me to share a stage with both you two intergenerational leaders for intersectional inclusion in tech, doing it before it was cool. So I just want to say thank you so much for all that you've done.
Thank you.
Great. So because we're short on time and because everyone has Google, I want to skip the kind of formal bios and jump straight into kind of 3 key questions for you all.
Right.
It's free. They're well documented. But can you tell us a little bit about yourself and specifically what you view as your mission in life? What's the biggest misconception about you as a public figure? And also, I work at Spotify, so I'm always interested in music. What's your favorite album of all time?
Oh my God.
So I'd love to start with you, Kimberly.
Oh my God. Let me start from the bottom up. So I would have to go with Beyonce's last album.
All right. Wait.
Lemonade.
Oh, Lemonade. I was like, the Carters? Okay, sorry,
no,
yes. Okay,
not
yes.
Just Queen
Yes,
Bee.
yes.
I love that album. I think it's so empowering, and it's really when she stepped into her own and owned all pieces of her personality, so it resonates with me.
Yes.
It's favorite album. What's my
biggest misconception?
Misconception? Let's see. I think the big misconception about me, and my mother would probably validate this, is that I'm very hard-nosed, and there's this shell around me because I do push to get things done. I have an assertiveness, but I'm like a big baby when it comes to my daughter laughs. Like when it comes to things that really touch my heart and things that really get me, especially with young people and young women. I'm just like a baby. It's just there's that softness is right there at the core of who I am. And I think for me, my mission in life is just to be an advocate for the next generation. I think of that in this realm of leaders who are starting organizations, and it's a career. For me, it's not a career. It's really about creating opportunities for our girls and to clear the pathway so that they can be all they can be.
Yes.
That's it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Speaking of one such girl pathways have been created for, Kai, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so maybe I'll start from the bottom to the top again, like my mom did. So favorite album, probably a tie between Hive Mind by The Internet.
Yes.
Oh, y'all didn't like Lemonade?
It's just a really good album. And then Extra Ugly by Duckworth.
Nice.
They're just really good artists, and they're black, so I mean that's a plus, and I just love their music.
Rooting for everybody black, yes.
Yep. One common misconception about me, probably that I'm really quiet. Like when you first meet me, I'm pretty, I don't know, not really that talkative because I just kind of take everything in about a person before I can really express my personality, I guess. So that's one thing about me. And then mission in life, I just really kind of want to make the world think with what I create in coding in the tech field and show people what my generation can bring to the table.
Yes, I love that. Okay. Round of applause for that. Okay. So I definitely want to later on touch on kind of how, a little bit more specifically, we can create those pathways and kind of as 2 generations here on stage, where it's both part of your mission, what that looks like. But first, I kind of want to go a little bit more personally and talk about coming out. And Kai, can you tell us, a large part of the Black Girls Code, founding story comes around you, and that, part of where Kimberly started on this path was wanting to create a better world for you. And so obviously, being the daughter of Kimberly Bryant looms large in your life. Can you tell us what it was like to come out as the daughter of Kimberly Bryant?
Well, I think for myself, I came out a lot of different times before I think I got it right, or so to say. Because for the first time, like for even when I was in elementary school, I like really knew that there was something up, but I didn't really know like what it was quite yet. But I told my best friend that I liked girls, and then I just left it at that. We never talked about it again. Middle school came around. My mom decided to put me in an all-girls middle school, and that was probably the worst decision ever because
I thought I was making
no. The abundance of hormones and me still trying to figure myself out was just way too much. I was just stressed out all the time. I did not know what to do. I didn't know why I was looking at this girl. Like why did I like her and not this boy that freaked on me at the dance at middle school? It's not what you think. 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 But, and then high school came around and I kind of got familiar with the terms and I kind of flirted with straight or bisexual. And my experience with bisexuality really was just singular, in which a guy was staring at me in my graphic design class, and I decided to start talking to him. He asked me out. He fell into a lot of the straight boy tropes, and it lasted for a week, and then I was like, okay, I don't really like guys. So,
all right, one and done.
Yeah, so that was that, and then I started coming out like slowly to the people at my school, because it was a Catholic school, so it was a little bit risque, but I mean, we were a little more progressive of a Catholic school, I'd say, but I came up to my friend, and then she ended up outing me to like the rest of my friend group and like a lot of other people, which was an experience and a lot to deal with. And then eventually, like years after that, I think just 2017, I finally came out to my mom.
Yeah.
Because it was just a lot for me. I mean, coming out of your parents is like a big thing, like a lot bigger than your friends. Like your friends are gonna accept you, but like your mom, like I don't know, you just don't know, like that kind of stuff, like what's gonna happen, and like how she's gonna think about it. And kind of queerness in the Black community is interesting. I didn't really know how she would react because I didn't really have like a clear opinion on what her views were. So yeah, that was kind of my coming out story to now.
Okay, so Mom, want to hear from your perspective what that was like.
Well, as you can see from Kai's explanation, I was the last one to formally know. But I would say that, in the family, we certainly, you always kind of know in the back of your mind, like, is she or isn't she? Like, we don't know. And so we kind of like knew it was coming, from a family perspective. And I think for me it was, I think the best way to describe it is that episode of Masters of None when Lena gives their story of coming out to her family. I watched that, my family watched it. We're from a very matrilineal family. And we all just bawled. We cried because that was real life. And I met Lena once, and I was like, "Yeah, that's like exactly how our family was." Right. And and I went through those same emotions that her mother went through in that scene at the table when she
Queen
finally
Angela
tells
Bassett, yes.
Oh yeah, that was me. I was like Angela Bassett. I don't know if she was like channeling me, if I was channeling her, but it was that. It was not so much that I was, disappointed. It wasn't that at all. But I was so frightened because I really consider myself a mama bear. I'm like a lioness when it comes to my daughter. And I was like, oh my God. Not only do I have to now figure out how to get this kid to make it through life as a Black woman, now she's a Black queer woman. And what does that mean? Yeah. What will she encounter? What obstacles will she have? And it was this great fear in me about, okay, I'm already doing this Black Girls Code thing, but now I had to do something else because she's queer too. Because not messing with my baby. Like, you're not going to mess with my baby. But it was just that. And I think it took my, I know there's a question around being an ally. I always considered myself an ally. Always did. But it took that to a totally different level. And the way that I looked at my work and looked at it through the lens of girls like my daughter who are have these intersectional personalities and these identities that it really impacts the way they walk in the world. Right. And it made me really perceptive to like how we could do our work better in that respect.
Wow. That's great.
Yeah.
Yes, clap for that. I think we sometimes forget that not everyone gets the benefit of an accepting parent as a part of coming out, and so that's always something worthwhile for Capping for, because not everyone gets that.
It's a process. I mean, any parent, and hopefully all parents that love their child, we have certain dreams and expectations. I certainly had that as a single mom.
Yeah.
And I mean, you have to reframe that. And it's really about that. And I even say that about my work. Like, I was not planning to do Black Girls Code. I'm only started doing Black Girls Code because of Kai. And she had this dream and an interest. And I had to reflect that in how I spent my time and even at my work. And the same thing around her sexuality and understanding, like, yeah, I may have had some expectations, but those weren't hers.
Right.
So now let me reframe my whole, vision of her future so that I can make sure that she's happy at the end of the day, because that's really all I want.
Oh, yes. Yeah. More claps for that. Okay, great. Yeah. So I think that one of the best things for me, and I think I take inspiration from lesbians who tech, because lesbian sometimes people think of it as a very sexual word. And so the fact that this conference has grown so much and it says lesbian front and center is huge. And I feel the same way about Black Girls Code. Girls are in vogue, but Black girls often aren't. And so for you early on to say, I'm not just going to say, girls generally and just focus on girls. I'm going to say front and center Black Girls Code, because I love and am advocating for a Black girl in particular, but all Black girls generally. I think that visibility, that choice to make Black girls and Black women front and center is huge. And on the question of visibility, you both in different ways are highly visible, and Black women often have this kind of, we're both highly visible but invisible at the same time. Can you talk a little bit about how, as a part of that, you stay sane? Because it's a hard thing to balance, right? Like being so hyper visible, then also being marginalized and invisible in the industry. So how you both kind of navigate that dichotomy?
I think for me is this concept of finding sisterhood as the superpower.
Yes.
And then for me, that's not just sisterhood and the other women of color that are working in tech that I'm allied with, but it's also in women that maybe not Black women, but understanding the issues that we share as women in this space and women in roles of leadership. That's also really understanding how we create that sisterhood with the girls that are participating in Black Girls Code. We talk about that a lot because we are all we got. That's exactly it. We all we got. And I think for me, that's how I stay sane. So like when I'm out there on a ledge and it looks like I jumped, but maybe I shouldn't have jumped, it's usually Black women that catch me and are there to kind of make a pathway for me. That's real. I mean, that's real. That's always been the case, and I think that's the one thing that keeps me sane and keeps me able to go out and fight another day.
That's incredible. Kai, what are your thoughts?
For me, it's just being able to take a step back and realize that, like, for me to change the situation I'm in, I just have to take action and just take a step forward. So even like being in my comp sci classes now in college, it is predominantly male, but I know that there are women in the room, and being able to identify them, a lot of them are already in the Center for Women Technology, but being able to identify them and kind of create a community together so we can kind of overcome this kind of testosterone-filled room that's often intimidating to walk into at 11 a.m. in the morning. So for me, it's just really finding a community of girls to just talk to, not even about just computer science, just to talk to about in general what we're doing in life. And
that's incredible. So I know we're running a little bit low on time, but I wanted to just kind of zero in on what you talked about in terms of Black women showing up for other Black women and that being a part of keeping you sane. I was really struck last year when you got I think it was Uber offered to donate $125,000 to Black Girls Code, and you said no thank you, which was yes. I mean, yes. I too was like, yes.
So we try not to say that word. We try to say lift in companies that are more appealing.
Okay,
but we can talk about it.
I mean, it's not really about that. It really, to me, is about like it was to me, you said, like, I have my values, and I know that, like, there's some things that I won't accept, you know, regardless of how they're wrapped. And I think that women, black women in particular, have often been faced with, you know, sometimes it's hush money, right? And so it's a pay bump, but really they're just putting you to what's equal to your male colleague, right? And so I just want to ask you in front of this audience of leaders, like, how do you decide when to say no, especially given the pressures, you know, I'm sure running an organization, wanting it to be solvent, wanting it to grow so that you can help more young black girls, like, how do you kind of keep your core values in the face of all that kind of professional pressure, and what advice you would give to others when they're facing the similar situations?
I think what I've learned from that situation, but what I kind of live by, is that if you don't lead with your values, if you don't align your business decision with those values, even when it's hard, even when there's $250,000 on the table, nothing else that you're doing in your work is gonna stay. It's not gonna last, right? Because when we said no to that money, like, we needed that money. Let me just be clear. We needed that money, but we felt that it wouldn't be setting a good example for our girls, because we have to walk it like we got to walk it like we talk it. And so what showed me that we did the right thing was when I literally woke up that morning, sat on the sofa watching my TV, pulled my laptop up and opened it, and I saw that Christy Tillman at Slack was like, we need to do something to make sure Black Girls Code is whole again. And I didn't have any conversation with her. I didn't ask her to do this. And to see that unfold, just with the community stepping up to show us that they believed in us and what we stood for, it was overwhelming. I literally just cried, tears of joy, because it showed that values matter. And if you lead with that from the very beginning, the community will always step up to support you.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of similarly, as a student, as like an emerging leader, like, how do you think about kind of keeping your values front and center, especially in this new stage of your life as a college student in particular?
Yeah, I think for me and my values and like what I kind of want to do in life in general, I had to kind of take a step back anyway. Like, so as soon as I graduated from high school, I took a gap year and I worked full-time with Black Girls Code, which was like just an amazing experience. Not just because I was having time to kind of think about who I was and who I wanted to be, especially in college, but outside of college, more importantly, I was being like led by an amazing group of young Black professionals that were working at Black Girls Code, and they taught me a lot about like just being who I am, but just getting work done and keeping my missions, keeping my goals set. And they even helped me move into college, and that was like a really emotional experience, because that team was like the closest team we've had, Black Girls Code, I feel like, in a long time. So it was, I don't know, we're just like a family, and I think that's something a lot different from Black Girls Code than other internships I worked at. It's like truly like, I don't know, you can be the true extent of your personality without fearing that it's going to interfere with your work.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know we're almost done with time, so I just want to ask two final questions. The first is, you know, what do you view as what's next personally, but also what's next in terms of how do we take, especially now that it's very in vogue, inclusion, equity, and diversity to the next level? And I'm very curious to hear kind of intergenerational view of this. You know, Kimberly, you think about your work, what does that look like, taking it to the next level? For personally with Black Girls Code and the industry, and then Kai as well, kind of as this emerging leader, what do you think it's going to take it to the next level?
For me, I really feel that, you know, the term diversity it's lived its course. We should just
Are we going to bury it?
this word, because it's overused, it's misused, and it's really not as impactful for what we need to do to move the needle. I'm looking at it, the work that we're doing now and the work that needs to be done across all industries from an equity lens. So it's really not so much about making sure everyone has a seat at the table. We need to redistribute these chairs. Like, just moving everybody in and opening the door, that's not enough. Because we're working with really centuries of systemic oppression.
Yes.
And if we don't address it like that with this generation and my daughter's generation and really redistribute things so that they can create some equity, we won't see the change that we hope to. I also think it's highly important that we as allies, we in this community, we in other communities with marginalized communities, we have to push this conversation of intersectionality.
Yes.
We can't just look at diversity as a binary, male versus female. Well, what about all these other personalities that I bring to the table? We have to move in ways that allows everyone to be, like Kai said, every piece of themselves, every bit, whatever that is. How can we elevate that and not have to suppress that when we walk in the world? So if we're not looking at intersectionality, you're not getting it right.
Right. Woo! I believe that.
What do you think?
Don't put too much pressure on me. I think, what you're saying is very true. Like, intersectionality is an important topic to be talking about, and we should have been talking about it a long time ago, because when you come to an organization, whether it's one that you work for or one that you just align with, like, you bring all parts of yourself. You don't just leave one out.
Right.
So you kind of have to navigate that, and based on like what organization you're with or what people you're with, that will kind of define what parts of yourselves you're showing to them. But it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't have to be that way. You shouldn't have to pick and choose. You should be able to just bring your whole self to the table.
All right, bring your whole self. Great. So we're down on time. Last question is, what's the one thing you want folks, this incredible room of queer, emerging, established leaders to know and to take away from this talk?
For me, it would be let's make some change.
Yeah.
I mean, we out here, we're doing this work. We know where we sit, and things that are happening around us, and who's at the head of the table, unfortunately. And we need to change that. And I think we have every bit of the power that we need to create the world that we want to live in.
I'd say to just network, because there's like just an amazing array of people here that have like so many good ideas. I already know. I don't need to know you, but I know that you guys have some amazing ideas, and just talking to each other is so powerful, because you're probably going to find somebody that you just align with on so many different levels, and I mean, that's powerful in itself.
I would say last but not least, one thing, because I know who's coming on this stage after me. Let's not make this mistake the next time.
Yes!
Let's get it right.
Awesome. Well, join me in thanking Kimberly Bryant, Kai Morton. Thank you all.